Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first ever episode of Not Your Everyday MMA podcast. I'm your host, Alex Henry, and I'm joined alongside with
Tori, bro. What's up, guys? First podcast. I'm very, very excited. Let's go.
Yeah, I am also very excited. And, me and Tori, we've both wanted to start a UFC podcast. And I thought, why not just do it together?
Exactly.
That's what we're doing, right?
It's what we're doing. I mean, just two huge fans of the sport, just want to share everything to the world and just share our knowledge to everyone. Because who doesn't like to hear about MMA? I mean, come on, it's the best sport ever.
Yeah, I agree. I love MMA. I'm so excited to talk about it. You guys might say, but, Alex, Tori, you guys didn't fight in the UFC. You're just a casual. Well, then in that case, yeah, I guess I am a casual, but we both studied hard. We both just love the sport and we love talking about it. So that's what we're going to talk about, right, Tori?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this sport's just so awesome in general. It's year round. There's always new things coming up. There's always something happening in the sport, and that's what makes it so amazing. I mean, with football and like basketball, there's seasons. It's not just no sport is like MMA. No sport's like MMA. All in all. So, yeah,
I agree. And let's just kick it off. San Diego, California, this past Saturday was just an insane fight night. And there were so many good fights on that card. I don't want to stay on this card and talk about it forever. But the Nate and the David fight, the co-main event, was insane. Tori, let me get your takes on this fight.
I mean, that fight has potential to be fight of the year. It was crazy. I mean, in the third round, it was like two dead men walking in a cage. I mean, just whoever, it looks like you could flick either one of them and they could go out. It was crazy. I mean, Onama, David went to the first round. He looked amazing. I had David winning that fight by decision. I was wrong. He went into that fight, looked great in the first round, kind of knocked, I believe, I have it written down somewhere. He did drop, he dropped Landwehr in first round with a solid right hand. And I was like, oh, he's going to finish it. Goes in second round, gassed, is getting just beat up, walked all over. Again, looks like a dead man walking in a cage. Like, it's insane. I'm like, holy, what is happening? Third round, comes back, still like half alive. I mean, last 4 seconds, almost knocks out Landwehr. If there's only a few more seconds in that round, David could have walked out of that one with the win. Just overall, an insane fight and just an insane third round. I mean, props to both fighters. Whoever walked out of that with the win, I mean, both of them were just such warriors, and it was an amazing fight.
Yeah, I agree, and I don't think I could say it any better myself. I mean, you talked about this being a potential fight of the year, and in my opinion, it's so hard to judge a fight of the year because unlike a fight where it's Yuri and Glover, where it's just very technical back and forth, brawling back and forth, goes the distance fight. This fight was technical at points, but it, like you said, was just two people trying to literally stay alive.
Beat the crap out of each other. Literally two men beating the crap out of each other the whole time. It was, and like in terms, we talked about this before, but just in terms of the fight, also, it sucks because some people don't experience that fight. Like people who, like I said, I hate this term, the casual term or whatever. People who do casually watch the sport, they're not paying attention to the fight nights, not paying attention to the smaller fighters. So some people didn't even get to experience this amazingness of a fight. And so, I mean, I hope we could get to that face value and, I mean, really get the credit it deserves because it was insane.
Yeah, it was. And I think it will get some credit. But like the one thing I did notice is I didn't see it on like all over Instagram and all over Twitter, like you might see like certain fights. But I mean, this fight was too good not to just be forgotten.
For sure.
The next fight, the main event, was also an insane fight between Dominic Cruz and Marlon Vera. And it started off like right off the bat. It was a good fight. Like for beginning of the round, they came out brawling. Tori, what do you think about this fight?
This fight, I mean, to Cruz fans was devastating. No one ever wants to see a veteran like him. I mean, an all-time greatest, probably bantamweight to ever be in the UFC, get knocked out like that. But I mean, people have to look out for Vera's power, man. That he is a definition of quality over quantity. And
Right.
just because he might not throw as many strikes as his opponents, but damn, when he hits, does he have power in his hands? I mean, something to look out for, as we've seen with Edgar and Cruz. Cruz went into the first 2 rounds looking amazing. He looks like Cruz, as people would say, vintage Cruz, which I don't think looks great. I don't like when people say vintage Cruz because I'm like, you're kind of saying he's older now. But anyways, right. I think kind of like downgrades him a little bit. Looked great, moving, just, your very intriguing, stylistic Cruz way, I guess. And looked good. Definitely took rounds 1 and 2. Cheeto's a slow starter. We all know that. I kind of had said that in a video I had posted. I said, I think Cruz takes rounds 1 and 2 just because Cheeto is a slow starter. 3rd round, Cheeto adjusts, starts to kind of figure it out, throwing in those straight shots. Then boom, 4th round, left kick to the head, knocks Cruz out. Sad.
Yeah. It was an insane knockout. I saw somebody on Twitter, they said that Dominic Cruz is going to be smelling Cheeto's toes for the next couple months. And that's very accurate. And I don't want to discredit Cruz as much as Cheeto looks so good. And I'll get to Cheeto in a second. A lot of people are like, well, is it time for Cruz to retire? No, Cruz looked really good in that fight. He looked ready before that fight. I don't think it's time for Dominic Cruz to retire. However, out with the old, in with the new is kind of what happened with this fight. And I mean, Cheeto, I can't say it any better than you did. He just looked so dominant. Almost all of his punches were knocking down Cruz, and he eventually caught him. And I just think it was such a good fight. And I personally think that the bantamweight is the most exciting weight class in UFC right now. Tori, I want to ask you, what is your kind of favorite weight class in the UFC right now?
Yeah, real quick, I'm gonna have to agree with you on the Cruz thing. I don't think it's time to retire.
Correct.
Just his chin worries me a little bit now that he is older, but he looked great. Besides the point, right now, bantamweight and featherweight are just so stacked right now. It's hard to not say those two, just because we have all these new fighters coming up the rosters, and they're exciting, they're newer, something we haven't seen before, something older fans haven't seen before. Because the thing with the newer generation of fighters is these fighters are true mixed martial artists. They are well trained everywhere compared to a couple years ago, like a decade ago, where there was strikers, wrestlers, grapplers, you know what I mean? So these are true younger, hungry, mixed martial artists coming up the divisions. And like I had this conversation before, but I could say lightweight, and I'm a big Dustin fan, I'm a big Gaethje fan, but we've seen them before. We've seen them fight for championships and lose. This is what's so exciting, is we have so many new contenders in these two divisions that people we haven't seen fight yet, or seen fight as much as we would like to yet. So both of those two divisions are super incredibly exciting and stacked right now.
Yeah, I agree. I really like a lot of the weight. I like more weight classes in UFC right now than I don't like weight classes in the UFC right now. But yeah, like you said earlier, what a good fight night. And if you missed it, that stinks. Because not only were the two fights that we talked about good, but many fights were good on this card. Somebody I want to talk about, Nina Nunes. She fought on this card, recently announced that she is going to retire. Tori, what do you think about this?
Good for her. She had said in an interview before, she's like, I have nothing else to prove. She's like, I was just doing it for the love of the sport, and it's my time. And respect to her for retiring now, especially off a win, because as we do see, some fighters do just go past their prime. And I believe you had said before, it's just they let fighting retire them, and it's just you don't want that to happen. So she left on a good note. 11 wins, 7 losses, and she with a solid fight, winning by split decision against Cavillo. And she doesn't need to have any more income as well. Look at her wife, like pound for pound greatest female fighter of all time. They're living great. So right. Legend, she retired, good for her. But on top of that, we have another legend who has fought in the best fight, in my personal opinion, ever. Rory McDonald retired this week.
Yeah, he did. He retired, and just another legend. And I'm kind of glad about this, him retiring. It was time for him to retire. You get to that point where these guys get a little older, and they just kind of keep fighting. And like you said, you mentioned, I said that that you want to retire from the sport. You don't want the sport to retire you. And the sport may have retired him a little bit, but he finally actually announced his retirement. So I'm pretty happy about it.
Yeah, and you want to like, I mean, the fight with him and Robbie Lawler is just, that's always going to be just an iconic staple fight. And it's hopefully one day Hall of Famer. It's not in the Hall of Fame yet. Don't know how. But I mean, props to him and his whole career. It was his time, and yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was such a good, that Robbie Lawler fight was insane.
One of the best ever. So
yeah, one of the best. So that's 2 people retired. Let's talk about some people who are coming up in the MMA right now. Molly the Meatball just had a fight announced pretty recently versus Erin Blanchfield for UFC 281. I mean, such an exciting fight, Tori. What do you think about this fight?
I am becoming a big fan of the Meatball. Like, geez, she is just awesome. I mean, like, how could you not like her and Patty? They're amazing. Mm-hmm. I have this weird thing though. Okay, I have kind of developed a kind of superstitious thing where if they're not fighting on the same card, will they win? Like, it kind of freaks me out a little bit, because the second Patty stepped foot into the octagon, fought on the same card with Molly, she started winning a little bit, started experiencing, getting those 2 performances of the night. Worries me a little bit. That's just like my little superstitious. But anyways, this fight's going to be great. She's facing Erin Blanchfield. Molly finally hit the rankings, number 15, facing number 12. It worries me though, this matchup a little bit, just because of how solid Erin can be, pardon me, on the ground. She's never been finished in her pro career. And she's on a 6 fight win streak right now. But I mean, you never know with Molly. She could whip out a spin elbow anywhere, from anywhere. And yeah, so it's the only thing that worries me. I'm scared Erin might take to the floor and hold her down, but if Molly works on her defense and just can try to keep the fight at a distance and keep it standing, I think she'll have the advantage. Yeah,
first off, to your first point, is I would love for Patty to be added to this card. And I think he can be. I don't know if the UFC will add him. There's a lot of guys calling him out right now.
I think he's fighting a card a week after in Vegas. Unfortunately. So I just saw that like a couple minutes ago, and I was like, oh, really? Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I do like them on the same card together, though. I agree. And Molly, I mean, first off, Meatball, what a sick nickname.
Right? I know, right? Awesome.
But I love her. Like you said, she's definitely one of my favorite like female fighters right now. And she's in a weight class that needs younger talent, much like Erin Blanchfield, who's very, very, very good, like you've said. And looking at, Valentina Shevchenko's fought everybody in this weight class pretty much. I mean, her last fight was against Talia Santos, which was like, yeah. I mean, we all knew what was going to happen pretty much there. Yeah. Even though it was a closer fight than I thought it was going to be.
People debate. I still think Valentina, just because the judges do tend to score off damage, like that headbutt really cost Santos, but definitely Valentina's toughest challenge so far.
Yeah, I agree. And I just like seeing these younger faces. I do think Erin Blanchfield is going to be Molly's toughest opponent yet, but like you said, Molly is just a live wire. She can explode at any time. And that is what's so exciting about her in a sense, is that you really don't know when she might just pop off. So I'm very excited for the fight. Let's talk about this weekend's fights though. Salt Lake City, Utah, UFC 278. Personally, not very, very excited for this card. Yeah. But we're gonna break it down anyway. We're gonna break it down from the prelims to the main card. Let's just start. You ready?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. So starting off with the prelims, Miranda Maverick versus Shayna Young. Mm-hmm. I'm excited. I like Maverick. I saw her right when she was kind of getting to the UFC, she was a new exciting contender. She did end up losing 2 in a row. Both by decision, weren't completely dominant. Her biggest weaker point is she is starting to improve. Don't get me wrong, but her striking definitely needs some improvement. Her grappling's insane, and I think that's what's gonna be her advantage in this fight. If you look at the records, 12-4, 1-0 with knockout, 7-0 submissions, whereas her opponent, Shanna Young, 9-5, 2-1 with knockouts, 3-2 in submission. So I think Maverick's really going to have the advantage on the floor in this fight.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about Maverick's advantage. She averages a little more than 2 takedowns a fight, coming off a fight where she had 4 takedowns in the fight and finished with a submission. On top of that, she keeps good forward pressure, and she's a pretty good striker. Shanna Young is also a pretty good striker, has decent power, but I think if you want to beat Miranda, you have to keep the pressure on her, and I don't see Shanna Young doing that. I see Miranda striking her early, setting her up, taking her down, and beating her on the mat, maybe pulling off a submission as well. So yeah, I gotta agree with you.
Yeah,
with Miranda Maverick
for sure. And Young, if you watch a previous fight, she doesn't like. She has pretty good takedown defense, but if she does get to the floor, not great grappling, tends to give up her back quite a bit, and you don't want to do that with Maverick, brown belt and jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu. And so I'm gonna go Maverick by like second round submission. I think Maverick takes this one.
Yeah, I agree. I think it could be a submission. I could see maybe a TKO, where she might take her down, get some ground and pound, and the ref stops the fight. But yeah, we both agree.
Perfect. I'm glad.
So the next fight, we got Sean Woodson versus Luis Saldana. Tori, who do you got in this fight?
Right off the bat, I'm gonna say Woodson. Woodson 9-1. I mean, 3-0 with knockouts, 1-1 with submissions. Has been finished once, but that is his only loss in his career. I believe it was earlier, or actually, it might have been pretty recent. I have to double check that. Don't take that for granted. And then we have Saldana. I mean, 16-7, 7-1 with knockouts, 7-2 with submissions. Was on Dana White's Contender Series, and he's 2-1 in the UFC. So this is going to be a predominantly striking match. Like this is both just two strikers going at it. And towards the end, I'm going to go Woodson. I'm going to go Woodson by knockout, just because Saldana has proved to not have the best cardio. He has success earlier in the fights. We've seen him take the first like 1 or 2 rounds, and then he just tends to gas out. So yeah.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. You said this fight's going to be striker versus striker. So you look at Woodson, and he's a really good boxer, and he's really good at using his length. And I think he's so good at using his length because his boxing history. You see like guys like Max Holloway who are good boxers, are good at using their length.
Mm-hmm.
He also has an 82% takedown defense, which means he usually forces his opponents to kind of stay up with him and strike. You look at Luis, who's also a good overall striker, stays on the outside, lands a lot of counter strikes, isn't the best wrestler. So it's striker versus striker. And I think Woodson is the much better and more elite striker. So I have to agree with you. I'm going to go Woodson, and I could see him getting a finish as well.
For sure, especially the way Saldana holds his hands. His hands are always hung lower, and that just leaves so many opportunities for Woodson to just go in and he has a very good jab, just kind of with those straight shots. And so, yeah, I just think Woodson has the advantage on everything just a little bit more than Saldana. So I'm definitely going to go Woodson, newer contender, exciting fight.
There we go. We both agree once again.
Perfect.
Now to the next fight, which is probably the hardest names to pronounce on the card right here. But I believe it's Yana Wu versus Lucy Padalova.
Padalova, yes, I just got that right.
And not only is this the hardest fight to pronounce, but in my opinion, it's the most boring fight on the card.
It's not that exciting. We have two people that have kind of been iffy in the UFC. I mean, amazing ladies, both good fighters, but not the best one on the card for sure. I mean, definitely kind of one of the lower looked upon ones. So yeah, I mean, bantamweight division, Yanin, she is, I think, 1-4 in her past couple of fights. A little concerning, but you never know. MMA, anything could happen. Mainly a striker, 12-5. Yeah, I mean, 7-1 with knockouts, 4-0 with submission, but she does have an 85% finish rate. So when she goes in there, she wins, she finishes. So yeah, I mean, I think Padalova 13-7-0. She's on a 2-fight win streak right now. Pretty good striker, has a very good jab, and I believe she takes this one because I I just think it's going to go to decision. I think she's just going to wear Yanan down with her jab, and I think she's going to use her reach to her advantage.
Yeah. You look at Petalova, who hasn't fought in the UFC for a while. And the last time she was in the UFC, she lost 4 straight fights. And then they cut her. And now they're bringing her back to fight somebody, like you said, who's 1-4 in her last few fights. Looking at Petalova, I think she's a good striker, throws with a lot of power, especially her jabs and her crosses, I think are really good when you watch her. And you look at Wu, who trains heavy Muay Thai, and she also has good grappling on top of it. She also has good cardio on top of it, and she throws with a lot of volume, but not necessarily the most power.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, I think I take Wu as well. And I don't really know how this fight ends, and it's hard to tell on these lower name female fights because out of any fights in the UFC, I think that these are the ones that can literally go anyway.
Like, you never know. I mean, we just switch it up everywhere, you'll never know if it's going to be a mainly wrestling match, because sometimes that is the case. We will see females like kind of stay in the clinch or stay on the guard a little bit, but I'm gonna predict it goes to a decision, but yeah.
I mean, there's another fight down and a good breakdown. Next fight on the prelims, Leonardo Santos versus Jared Gordon. Tori, I'll throw it right back over to you. Who do you have in this fight?
So I have Gordon right off the bat. Santos, something crazy. Santos is a 42-year-old male in the lightweight division. How insane is that? You never hear of anyone. I mean, maybe in heavyweight, light heavyweight, like we have Glover. Jan's getting a little bit older, but I mean, in the lightweight division, a 42-year-old cut in weight still. I mean,
it's impressive.
Very impressive. But that said, he's 18-6-1, 3-2 knockouts, 9-1 submissions. His last 2 fights he has lost, and they were both by finishes. A little concerning. Mainly a jiu-jitsu fighter and has kind of mainly an orthodox stance, and he's facing the opponent Gordon. So Gordon's going to be 18-5, 6-4 with knockouts, 2-1 submissions, and he's been 3-2 in his last couple of fights. So I have to go Gordon on this one. I mean, it's almost how could you not? I mean, just he's not known for his knockouts, but he has pretty good wrestling, good in the close range when it comes to boxing. I mean, definitely he's more athletic, has more cardio than Santos. So yeah, I mean, Santos when he was in his prime definitely could have been up there competing, but I have to go Gordon on this one.
Yeah, and you look at Gordon, who he's a good striker. His biggest strength is his wrestling, averages a little over 2 takedowns a fight. This is his 3rd fight at lightweight. He's 1-1 at the weight class. And his wrestling really didn't look like crazy good in those fights, but his striking looked a lot better.
Yeah.
So now it's his 3rd fight. We'll see if he can kind of find a balance in between the two, and I think he'll be good. You mentioned Leonardo's BJJ. Very good.
Mm-hmm.
You also mentioned how he's coming off back-to-back losses and that he's at the tail end of his career. Jeff Gordon, he's been taken down a lot recently, and if Santos can keep it on the ground and pull out some really good BJJ, then I think he might be able to take it. But Santos only has a 29% takedown accuracy, and I don't know how. You'll hear me talk about this a lot. I don't get how guys are really good at BJJ, but they are not good at takedowns. When your key to success to win a fight is to get it on the ground and you're not good at takedowns, it kind of stinks for you. So between that and his cardio, I do think that he's going to lose.
Yeah, something my cousin at one time brought up to me, he said it's so hard to learn wrestling if you didn't grow up wrestling. And I understand that. Like, it's just one of those things where it's just like, if you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. And that's a lot of problem we see with grapplers sometimes, is like Charles Oliveira, for example, kind of getting sidetracked for a second, but if he pretty good takedowns, pretty good wrestling, but I mean, especially if the fight gets just grapplers, it's just harder. It's just, they're 2 different sports and they're 2 different ways of kind of moving your body. I don't know how to explain it, but right. That's a big problem we see with a lot of experts in jiu-jitsu is the takedowns.
Yeah.
It worries me a little bit.
So are we both going with Santos.
I
I mean
think I'm gonna
Gordon.
go. Yeah, I think I'm gonna
I
go
mean,
Gordon. I think he might get it. He does not really known for his knockout power. I think this might be the one.
yeah,
Not judging off Santos' age because anyone can do anything, but judging a little bit. Like you, like sometimes you have to look at the age. Like you can't help it. I mean,
yeah,
it is a factor in fights. It's something you do have to look at.
yeah. No, I get that 100%. And I don't really know how this fight ends. Honestly, I do see it a finish. I don't think this fight goes the distance. But yeah, we agree once more.
Perfect.
Time for the main card.
Um, I believe so. I
So,
believe so.
first fight of the main card. By the way, this fight card keeps getting moved around and matches keep getting moved. So when you're listening, this might not be the exact order, but these are the fights that we researched, and this was the order
Yeah.
that they were in.
They're all
when we
different on
fought
different
this.
websites. So whatever one you want to look at, they're
Yeah.
all going to be fighting anyway. So whatever card is okay.
So this fight, first fight of the main card, Tyson Pedro versus Harry Hunsucker. What a good name. Tori, give me your breakdown on this fight.
I think this is going to be an absolute murder. I'm not even going to lie. I think Pedro is the biggest favorite on this card against Hunsucker. He's making his light heavyweight debut. He claimed that the heavyweight division was a little too easy for him. Just Pedro 8-3 has not. Okay, he did fight. I believe it was in December or it was pretty recent. But other than that, he hadn't fought since 2018. But he looked great in his last fight, kind of better than he has before. Very interesting fact about Hunsucker. Every single one of his fights, this man is 7-5, finished in the first round. Everyone. I think maybe other than one, maybe. Oh, actually, no. Every single fight has been finished in the first round, whether he's getting finished or whether he's finishing people. Definitely something to look out for. So I don't think this fight's going past one round. That's all I'm going to say right now.
Yeah, I agree. So who do you think it's going to be Pedro domination?
1000%. I mean, Pedro has so many different ways of winning this fight. Like, I don't want to downplay Hunsucker too much, but it's kind of hard not to. I mean, Pedro has been this division's Hunsucker from heavyweight to light heavyweight. There's a big difference between these two. Light heavyweights, they can move around, more cardio, definitely more movement within the fights. I think Pedro could knock him out. I think Pedro could take him to the floor and submit him. He has very good ground and pound, kickboxing style. The only thing that would make a difference is the long layoff he took. But I mean, obviously anything could happen in a fight with Hunsucker's record of number round ones. I mean, he could clip him once and be done, but Hunsucker tends to gas out. So I'm going to go Pedro first round finish. Kind of however.
So I agree. I think Pedro wins it. However, when it comes to the odds, I think the odds are a little silly. You know, you look at Hunsucker, who's been knocked out by opponents who in his last fights that would have knocked out anybody. I mean, some of the best guys in that weight class. And you look at Tyson's one win since 2018, and it was kind of versus scrub. Mm-hmm. So I do think the odds are a little crazy, but Tyson Pedro is a very good striker and an even better grappler. He loves his double legs and he loves his ground and pound. Now, Harry, in the same way, is a very powerful striker who likes to march forward, throws with a lot of volume. He's also pretty quick for the weight class.
Yeah.
With that being said, I do want Harry to win, but I think Tyson probably wins it, and I do think he's probably going to knock him out as well.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully they can keep the record going of round one. I mean, how insane. We never see that. I mean, like, what, 12 fights, all first round finishes? It's insane. But yeah, I think I'm going to go Pedro. Unless, like I said before, unless Hunsucker can just clip him with a solid shot and just knock him down, I have Pedro winning all the way.
Yep, I got to agree with you. Moving on to the next fight, Marcin Tybura versus Alexander Romanov. I'm pretty excited for this fight, actually. Tori, give me your breakdown and prediction on who you got.
All right, so we have Tybura. He's 22-7, ranked number 11 in the heavyweight division. He did just lose to Volkov by unanimous decision. 9-4 with knockouts, 6-0 with subs. He's fought greats. I mean, he's fought Derek Lewis, he's fought Vera, and he actually, I don't know about some people, I'm not the biggest fan of Greg Hardy. Did get out of the organization.
I
knocked out
hate
Greg.
him. I hate Greg Hardy.
I
Greg Hardy,
do.
if you're listening to this, F
I
you.
don't like
hate
you.
you.
He knocked out Greg Hardy, so I mean that's a plus already. I mean, come on. And then we have Romanov, I believe, 16-0, ranked number 13, tricky southpaw, something to keep kind of an eye out for. 6-0 knockouts, 9-0 submissions. Almost all of his wins have been finishes. He has one decision on his record, and keep in mind, this man is undefeated. So in terms of that, I have to go Romanov by finish. I'm going to go maybe second. I'm going to go second round submission, I think. Yeah, I think I'm going to go second round submission.
There you go. I'm going to hype up Marcin really quick. I like to talk about the stats. I like to talk about the technique, the styles. That's how I like to make my opinion. The only time that I'll ever not make my opinion, the one exception, is when a fighter has the dog in him. When he's got that dog in him, like Brandon Moreno, for example.
Sure. Yeah.
You might hear me say Brandon Moreno has that dog in him. And that is exactly how I feel about Marcin. He likes to come in, throw strikes, back you against the cage. He looks for takedowns, but they're mainly trips. He averages over one takedown a fight, but it's only a 32% takedown accuracy. And that's mainly because he's not really shooting many takedowns. More so he's just kind of trying to get his opponent down. But you look at Alexander Romanov, who's an excellent wrestler. He has great power, even better speed for the weight class, coming off two really good wins. Romanov hasn't really fought anyone crazy good like Marcin has, but Marcin also won against people with wrestling, so it's a good matchup. At the end of the day, I just think Alexander's a whole different beast. Better get off the tracks because the freight train's coming kind of guy. And I see him winning by knockout as well.
And I mean, no bad feelings to Tabura. I mean, he has fought good grapplers. He does have an 82% takedown defense, and he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. Just he can get gassed. Kind of if you've watched a couple of his fights, his path to victory, some stuff he has done before, is he almost lets his opponents gas out. Then he goes at them, takes them down, and then submits them. It's kind of like a pattern you'll see. He's like, okay, I can take it. And then gasses out. Then he'll get them to the floor and finish them. That's kind of his deal. That's not going to work with a fighter like Romanov. I mean, just very strong, great on the ground, can just very good ground and pound, especially when he's in that top position, and just such good wrestling. So, and he's younger, undefeated in the heavyweight division with 16 wins. That's hard to do. So I'm going to go Romanov.
I would, you know what? This is my lock of the night. This is my lock pick. If I had to lock in one pick that I was the most confident on, it would be this fight. Not saying that you have to agree, but for me, that's 100% what it is, even over Kamaru Usman, but we can get to that later. Now, the co-main event, or no, not the co-main event, but
the people's main event.
The people's main event, the most exciting fight on this card by far, Jose Aldo versus Merab Dvalishvili, I think is how you say it.
We'll just say Merab.
I've heard it so many ways. Hey, Bruce Buffer messes up names in front of thousands. I can mess up names on the YouTube podcast, not your everyday MMA. Exactly, right? So, talked about this being the people's main event. Tori, give me your breakdown on this fight.
I am excited for this fight. I'm so excited to see Aldo fight. I love him. One of my favorites of all time. I'll go over their stats real quick. Aldo, as you know, 31-7-0 and ranked number 3 in the bantamweight division. Last fight, won via decision against Rob Font, 17-4 with knockouts. I mean, 17 knockouts, that is crazy. 1-1 with submissions. And we can't forget how much of a legend this man is. I mean, fought everyone. He's fought Petr Yan, he's fought Volkanovski, he's fought Holloway twice, he's fought Frankie Edgar, Conor McGregor, Chad Mendes, the Korean Zombie, Uriah Faber, and Cub Swan. Just the list continues and just goes on. This man is a legend. 3-2 in his past fights, wins against in the bantamweight division, talking Rob Font, Pedro Munoz, and Marlon Vera, who just recently won. people have to take account of that. And then he is facing Merab, who is a newer contender. 14-4, ranked number 6 in the bantamweight division. Last win, he had a round 2 knockout against, I think it's Moraes. I think that's how you pronounce it. 3-1 knockouts, 1-0 submissions on a 7-fight win streak right now. Wins against Stanman, Dodson, Lopez, and Kenny. So he's also looking real good. But I'm gonna go with Aldo this fight, and I'm gonna say it confidently.
You're going Aldo.
I'm going Jose Aldo. Yes.
So, Tori, this will be our first disagreement. And like you said, the best 145-pounder of all time is Jose Aldo. He has some of the best Muay Thai you'll ever see. He has beautiful counter strikes, such technical BJJ and wrestling. But I would say his biggest strength is his fighter IQ. The way that he's able to look for leg kicks, perfectly time those counter strikes. In his older age, he does focus more on his punches. And he's on a 3-fight win streak versus Chito Vera, Rob Font, Pedro Munoz. Yeah. All very good fighters.
Yeah.
Merab has really good cardio, and he loves to chain wrestle. He averages over 7 takedowns a fight.
Yes.
And the best thing about Merab is, like I said, his cardio and his chain wrestling. So if he misses a shot, he'll usually follow that up by another shot. Strike, another shot. And it's just constant chain wrestling. You mentioned his win streak. His last loss was in 2018 to Ricky Simone, and he was still able to get many takedowns in that fight. And I just think, what a matchup that the UFC made here. You take a legendary striker with great takedown defense, but not the best gas tank, versus an excellent wrestler with great cardio and a questionable chin, and you put them together. And Frankie Edgar is the last person in UFC history to take down Jose Aldo more than once in a fight, and he still lost.
Yeah.
I have to go with Merab here. And I think it's because he's never really fought a crazy good wrestler, in my opinion. And when I think about Merab, I think only wrestling. And I just don't know if his cardio is going to be able to keep up with him. I don't think he's going to be able to keep defending takedowns. And the longer this fight goes, the more I have to pick Merab. Now, I'm going to be cheering for Jose Aldo, but for me, that's the pick.
Yeah, see, that's where I'm disagreeing with you. The more the fight goes on, the more I have Jose Aldo. I mean, this
really
90% takedown defense, like our 90%. This man has the best takedown defense we have ever seen in the octagon. It's crazy. Just, it's so insanely technical. This is what drives me crazy of how the judges don't score defense on cards, as we had talked about this earlier. How is that not? Because when you have someone with such good takedown defense in Jose Aldo, how could you not score that? I mean, it's man. Right. So Jose has looked great against his past 3 opponents. And he's one of those rare cases where, like, not like a Dominic Cruz or a Frankie Edgar, where he was the champion, went down a weight class, he's still looking really good. He does. He's competing with the top in the division. I mean, it's crazy. He's definitely better on the feet, and he's just so difficult to take down and especially hold down on the floor. He's very, very hard to hold down. So if Aldo can just keep on moving and just kind of stay at a range, just go in and out, I think he takes it, and I think he takes it by decision. And Merab 1000%, 100% is going to try to take him down, but I don't think he's going to have as much success as he thinks. I don't know.
Yeah, and like I said, it's hard for me not to pick Aldo, but if UFC's taught me anything, especially this last Saturday, it's Father Time catches up with you.
I know, yeah.
I hate to see it, and especially on a guy like Aldo, who's been number 1 beating really good fighters. I think he's, what is he, 3rd ranked in?
Number 3, yeah.
In bantamweight right now, which is insane. So he jumped down, and he's still ranked 3rd in his current weight class. It's very, very difficult for me to pick against him. The wrestler in me makes me have to pick him. Makes me pick Merab. So I want to ask you, we've talked about Cheeto Vera's last fight versus Dominic Cruz. We're talking about this fight with Jose Aldo. What? Wow. What do we do with the bantamweight weight class right now?
So I was listening to Aljamain Sterling's podcast the other day, and he said it better than I could have. I mean, obviously, he's a champion. He said it the best, and that's how I'm going to say it right now. Murad versus Aldo and Cheeto versus Dom are like the semifinals. Whoever wins those two fights for that number one contention for the belt. He kind of said that fight's number one contender, and I don't think it could be kind of explained better just because, but it's also hard when you have Jan versus O'Malley.
Very hard.
It's because if O'Malley wins, there's no doubt in my mind that he's going to get a title shot because the hype behind him, it just makes sense. I mean, for the company, for the fans, it makes sense for O'Malley if he does win that fight to get a title shot. And so it's hard because there's all these, and we can't forget we have Corey Sandhagen versus Song Yadong in like 3 weeks. There's just constant top contender fights. It's so like anyone could get a title. Anyone in the top 10 right now could, who has like won recently, could get a title shot based off their wins because everyone's fighting everyone. Everyone's fighting the top dogs, and it's just, this division's insane right now. It's just hard to say. Whatever the company wants to do, whether they want to go with the hype train and Sean O'Malley, or they want to go with someone who's worked their way up with Cheeto Vera, I mean, or put those two together. You never know. So,
yeah, for me, I would say if Aljo loses to TJ, I think the fight to make is Piotr Jan versus TJ Dillashaw.
1000%.
But if assuming Piotr Jan beats Sean O'Malley, but it is like almost disrespectful to make that the next fight when you have guys like Cheeto Vera, you have guys like who's ever going to win this fight winning, you have guys like Corey Sandhagen, and it's such a talented weight class that it's at a point right now where you kind of have to wait your turn. Like you might earn your spot, but somebody else might have earned it a little sooner, and you're just going to have to wait. And that stinks, but it's also really exciting because it means we have a lot of good fighters in the weight class right now.
For sure. And I mean, they're all so great, and they're all so good in their own ways. And all these matchups are just, the UFC's been okay. I was kind of judging on them a little bit for the matchups. I was like, what is Sean Shelby on? Like, I have no idea. Now I'm like, I'm not that mad at it. I'm like, okay, I kind of like it. They're all making sense. They're all starting to add up a little bit and make sense. So I'm a fan.
Method to the madness.
A little, exactly.
Yeah.
And so I'm just, I want Aldo to take this and just be like, screw you guys, I'm the best. And that's just what I'm praying for. And I have confidence. I have a lot of confidence in him. So yeah, I think this is actually, I don't know if I have 100% good confidence. I'm going Aldo by decision. Locked in.
Yeah. I want Aldo to win. I will be cheering for him this Saturday. I can't pick him. I just can't pick him as much as I want to pick him. But hey, that's our first disagreement, I think.
Yeah.
So there you go. Anything can happen in the UFC too.
I mean, exactly. You never know.
So now for the real co-main event, we got Paulo Costa versus Luke Rockhold, which I think will also be a pretty exciting fight. What do you think about this fight, Tori?
Okay, Alex, I'm gonna be honest. When they announced this, I was like, okay, like I just didn't think much of it. I was like, first of all, how is this the co-main? And it's not even for title contention. I mean, we have Luke Rockhold, hasn't fought for 3 years, hasn't won in 4 years. And it's just, I don't know. This fight is just like kind of whoever wins, it's not very exciting because it's not like they're going to get a title shot. It's not like they're on a win streak. Both of them are on like losing streaks right now. Besides the point, we have Costa, number 6 in the middleweight division, 13-2-0, was undefeated until he faced the champ, Stylebender Israel Adesanya, got knocked out and some stuff done to him in that fight. And I believe it was the second round. So 11-1 with knockouts, 1-0 with submissions. Just lost his last fight to Marvin Vettori, where this man came in 20 pounds overweight. How you have to intentionally do that. Barely made light heavyweight against Vettori, and Vettori still won. Anyways, we have Rockhold. If you know MMA, legend in the sport, everyone knows Luke Rockhold. 16 wins, 5 losses. Last fight was in 2019 and was a loss to Jan Blachowicz by second round KO. Past fight, I mean, he's had a loss to Jan, lost to Yoel Romero, lost to David Branch, lost to Michael Bisping. His last win was against Branch, but it was kind of a no one. So his last significant win was against Chris Weidman, and that was many years ago. So right off the bat, I mean, I'm gonna go Costa. I mean, not the biggest fan of the dude. Funny on Twitter, kind of annoys me. I'm gonna go Costa on this one.
Yeah, just something super odd and has nothing to do with anything is I love Costa's physique. If I could pick the body of any UFC fighter, I'd want to be Paulo Costa. But
man is big.
He's jacked. He's jacked, but he struggles with making weight. So I don't know. We'll see. But he has great power, and you can tell. He has good volume striking, and he has really good cardio. His speed and his high pace striking are definitely things to look out for. He averages 7 significant strikes per minute, which is double the amount of pretty much everyone else in the weight class. He also has an 80% takedown defense. Luke's a wrestler at heart, but he's known for his kickboxing. He uses his length well, and he lands good strikes. But I mean, he trained with the best fighters at the time when he was around. So he is really well-rounded. But that was forever ago. He hasn't fought in 3 years. He's always struggled with injuries. And I just think the UFC's throwing him to the dogs. And I think that Luke Rockhold is a good fighter, but he's not going to win this fight. And like we were talking about earlier, is obviously if you're a fighter, you fight because you love fighting.
Yeah.
But it gets to a point where I'm like, is Luke Rockhold fighting because he wants to make another run at the belt?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think he might just, maybe UFC is his only source of income. He needs another check. I don't know what it is, but number one, UFC is basically like, okay, you want to fight again? Here's your shot.
Paulo Costa.
And they're just kind of killing him.
Yeah.
And I hate to see that, especially when it's a legend like Luke Rockhold.
Yeah.
But I mean,
I don't know. A matchup that might have been made a little bit more sense would be a Derek Brunson, someone who's just recently lost, like chin's kind of going away a little bit, kind of like going a little bit under the radar now. I think that even might have been a better one. I mean, Rockhold, he said the reason if people have watched DC or if they tuned in DC and RC this week, they interviewed him and he had said, I'm fighting for myself. Sorry, I have an air bubble in my throat. I am fighting for myself. And I'm like, okay, like, do you want to be a champion? He's like, he's like, I don't know. I'm fighting for myself. I was like, got it. When Paulo Costa is still very much in his prime, still younger, still getting better, hits very hard, is very tough and durable. Rockhold has been knocked out, was it 5 times in his past couple of fights? And in his last fight against Jan, it was at light heavyweight a couple years ago, and that was a couple years ago. He looked slow, he looked washed, did not look like himself. And Costa's not easy to take down. And I just think he's gonna hurt Luke with those punches. I mean, man is huge, like I said. Like he is.
Yeah. No, he's big. He's a big dude.
Yeah. And so I'm gonna go Costa, like early knockout.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's gonna be destruction. And I hate to see it, but I mean, that's the fight the UFC made. I can't make the fights.
Yeah.
Brunson would have been a good fight, I think. But Luke Rockhold, I wish he would have just stayed out. Now, mind you, his training videos, he's looked very good. Training, he looks ready to fight, but he's not actually ready to win. Like he's ready to fight, but he's not gonna win this fight. So
it's like a Jeremy Stevens. Like he looks great in his like training videos, but I mean, he's almost 50-50 with his record right now. It's just like it's once you get in the octagon, especially with these younger guys. I mean.
Yeah,
that's saying if Costa can make weight. I mean, who knows with the 20 pounds overweight last time? Hopefully he can. Right. You never know, but he looks pretty shredded, so I think he'll be okay.
Yeah. So now we're on to the main event of the evening. We made it this far.
I'm excited.
Kamaru Usman versus Leon Edwards rematch, actually. I mean, there's so many crazy stats behind this fight. There's so many ways to look at it. But Tori, I want to hear your breakdown and your prediction.
Once again, starting off with the records, as we know, Usman 21-0. If he wins this fight, he will tie Anderson Silva for the longest win streak. Crazy. 15-fight win streak right now. If he wins, gonna be 16 and tie the greatest of all time. Last fight, we all know, won by decision against Colby Covington. hardcore Covington. I mean, can't be debated that Covington won. I don't think he won.
I don't either.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's the hardcore Covington fans. It's like he won. No disrespect. Anyways, I'm not even gonna go into that. But
right,
I thought he won. Yeah, he got rocked a couple times, but he was fighting the best in the division. I mean, come on. And then so yeah, I mean, his title reign pretty crazy. Covington ×2, Masvidal ×2, Burns, and what's it called? I mean, three of those fights being finishes, insane. 21 fight win streak or 20 or is it 20 fight win streak right now, just in general in MMA, crazy. Then Leon Edwards, the poor unlucky man. I am a Leon Edwards fan. With 19-3, last one against Nate Diaz by decision. Overall, very dominant fight. People judge him based off of the last knockdown in the last round. I think Leon just was he was just dominating all 4 rounds nonstop, going, just hitting him with shots. I think he literally just got like bored. Just was like, oh yeah.
Right.
And he got hit, but it's MMA. You're gonna get hit. Come on. But this is such an exciting fight. I mean, yeah, I'm very excited for it.
So who do you have winning this very exciting fight, Tori?
It's so hard to call. A part of me is rooting for Leon. I mean, this man has had the worst luck in the UFC. 6 fight cancellations since COVID. Finally gets back in the octagon against Bilal. Fight ends with an eye poke. I mean, this poor guy. I feel bad for him. I'm rooted for him. I mean, I can't not root for him. It's such a hard fight to call. If Kamaru chooses to stand, which I personally don't think he should, because he has improved striking. Not as good as Leon though, because Leon's base is predominantly boxing. I think we might see the old Usman come out of a cave, and I think we're going to see wrestling Usman come back. And I think we have to, in order, if he wants to dominate and win this fight decisively, he's going to have to bring that part out. But if it's standing, if he wants to stay standing, even though he is working with Trevor Whitman, I'm going to have to go Leon by decision. I don't think this fight's going to end in a finish. That's right off the bat. Yeah.
Very interesting. I'll just get this right off of the bat. I'm not an Usman fan. I want him to lose that belt really bad. But much like Luke Rockhold, great wrestler who doesn't rely on the wrestling. He's shown that he has power in his hands. He showed how dangerous he just is in general. He's won multiple battles against the hardest of the hardest fighters. You look at a guy like Leon Edwards, which he said has really, really good striking. He mixes his boxing really well with, kickboxing, Muay Thai. He also averages 1 takedown a fight. And I think Leon Edwards is really, really good. But I think Kamaru Usman is really, 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 really good. And I hate to say that, but I really don't think it's going to be as close a fight. I think Usman could probably win this fight however he wants, whether he wants to win it by a knockout, submission, decision. And I hate to say that because I like Edwards and I want to see Edwards win. I just think Usman, I might not like him personally. He's on another level. I don't think he's the top pound for pound fighter right now. I would have to give that to Volkanovski.
Thank you.
I'm just saying. But
we'll see on Saturday, yeah.
Yeah, we'll see on Saturday. I think it's going to be a good fight, but I got to go with Usman here.
Yeah, I mean, it's breaking down this fight. Also, another thing is, I mean, just think of how bad Leon wants it. Leon going into that fight. I mean, Usman, if he wins this, he can most definitely be in GOAT discussion. He can be. I mean, with his win streak, his title reign, this man already has longer win streak than GSP, and he's won dominantly. I mean, I think we forget that we are living in like a time where like Israel Adesanya and Usman, they will be remembered. And even I forget sometimes. Those two are so dominant and they will be remembered. The thing that worries me a little bit is I think Leon, I think he just might want it more. And I think that might also be a factor. Edwards is just extremely technical, put shots and combinations together extremely, extremely well, very fluid, light on the feet, very hard to fight from a distance. I mean, very good straight punches, has good power, throws good kicks. And Usman, like he has been working with Trevor Whitman, I don't think his striking is up there yet because, I mean, I was watching a breakdown the other day. I think it was the MMA Guru, and I was just watching one of his videos, and he was kind of like beating up Kamaru Usman a little bit. I was like, okay, I don't think he's like that. I don't think he's that like bad, but it's true. I mean, people have been praising his striking because he's got knockouts, but I mean, all we've seen is his jab and his right. Do you know what I mean? Like
Right.
he got hit by Colby Covington in the 4th round. And if you're getting hit by Colby Covington in the 4th round, you're definitely going to be getting hit by Leon Edwards.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I see it. And I mean, Usman is just, he's not a technical striker. He went from not striking to learning how to strike. And people are like, he's amazing. I don't think he's that amazing. He's just finally learned and getting his thing together, like understanding how to use striking, use his power, especially, like I said, working with at Onyx Gym. But I still think Usman takes it. It's just, I'm so 50-50 on it. If Usman decides to bring out old Usman, like the Ultimate Fighter Usman, use his wrestling, take Leon down, hold him down, he can win. I think Edwards wins on the feet. I do. I think Edwards wins. I think he's going to be too quick and too sharp.
Yeah. 2 points off what you said. You said, I think Edwards might want it more. And we've seen this. We've seen where we look at Amanda Nunes and Juliana Pena, where Amanda Nunes, I am the best. I am the GOAT. And she came in and she lost.
Yeah.
And nobody expected it. And it's because Juliana Pena just wanted it more that day.
Yeah.
And we haven't seen Usman fight in a while. He seems very cocky. I've always thought that he was cocky. And
But
he seems like he's going to walk in. That's my first point. So you never know. The second thing is you said that I think that Edwards is a better striker than Covington, which I wholeheartedly agree with, where his boxing and just his overall striking is more advanced than Covington. But I think the issue for Covington versus Usman was that Covington's striking is kind of chaotic.
Yeah.
And he's
Chaos
kind of
Covington,
all over
yeah.
Chaos Covington. He's all over the place. I don't know if Edwards is going to be like that. And I think if Edwards is more technical with his striking, that actually goes to his disadvantage. But I think he's also more of a volume striker. Whereas Kobe's kind of come in, come out, come in, come out. So maybe that can make up for not the chaos, I guess. But yeah, this is going to be a really exciting fight to watch. I'm super excited for it. Yeah. I just think Usman wins it however he wants, but yeah, I guess we'll see Saturday night.
Exactly. And I mean, Usman also, he is so, that man is durable. One of the most durable. So me personally, I mean, and also I forgot to mention this, Leon's on a 9-fight win streak. He hasn't lost since he fought Kamaru Usman. Also insane. I mean, Usman's very durable, so I don't see Edwards finishing him. Maybe by like a little bit I have Usman winning, but I'm just saying if it stands up, I think Leon can pick him apart, and I think he can win the stand-up by points just because Usman hasn't fought a very technical fighter yet as someone like Leon Edwards. So, I mean, we will see. I think this is going to be definitely one of his harder matchups. I'm excited. I'm excited to watch this. My heart's rooting for Leon. I am rooting for England, and I'm rooting for him to get it just because he deserves it. That man deserves it. He's gone through so much, but I think I'm gonna go Usman by decision. Yeah,
Usman by decision. We will see Saturday, August 20th in Salt Lake City, Utah. It's gonna be a very exciting night. UFC 278. A lot of good fights, but a lot of fights I'm also not excited about at all, and gonna have to keep myself awake.
Anything can happen in MMA.
Anything can happen in MMA.
Yeah.
So that's pretty good show, right, Tori?
Yeah, that was awesome. I mean, I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think so. So this idea we had, let's end off the show with something fun. This week we're doing our top 5 biggest trash talkers in the MMA. Tori, you just want to go through your list. Who's your top 5 biggest trash talkers?
Alrighty, I'll go from 5 to number 1.
Okay,
number 5. People are definitely going to disagree with me, but this man cracks me up. I have Ben Askren at number 5. He has literally made me like get tears in my eyes because of how much he's just like almost just so dopey and just like the stuff he says. I'm just like,
he's so petty.
He is so petty. It is hilarious. It literally is hilarious just because he knows. Sometimes he's like, I love Ben Askren. I'm just gonna go out there and say I could listen to that man talk all the time. Number 4, I have the Diaz brothers, of course. I mean, with the Stockton slap, you don't even need to trash just them two together. I mean, they're insane. Like those two men, I have them tied just because I couldn't choose. Both of them are just the most chillest, just most, I think, real people we have seen in the octagon, and they just do not give an F about anything. They just don't care. Like they just let anything out. They're in my number 4. Number 3, I have, of course, Michael Bisping. Conceive, achieve, and believe. I mean, like that man is so. Once again, I love his YouTube channel. Hilarious. Also, man, someone who just doesn't care what anyone thinks about him, and I always respect people like that. Always makes me laugh. Number 2, I mean, I have to give it to McGregor. I have to add McGregor somewhere on this list. He helped build up that persona in the UFC. I mean, just the stuff that comes out of his mouth, it becomes trademarks. Like, your wife is in my DMs. Like that has become something that so many people say. And it's just, he has so many lines like, who the f is this guy? With Jeremy Stevens, like, I mean, how could you not choose McGregor? And of course, at the number 1 spot, I have the undefeated, undisputed, best trash talker in the world, Mr. Chael Sonnen. The best, the most. I think if I got insulted by Chael, that would be the most hard-hitting thing, because that man just goes for it. Like he just does not care. Like the stuff he said about Tito's wife, I was like, oh my gosh. He is just so straightforward and just honest and brutal and just monotone when he does it too, which is even scarier, but it makes it even better. So I got Chael Sonnen at the top, and that's going to be my list.
How about you? I have a very similar list. I have the Diaz brothers at 4 and 5. I mean, I think that these, like, their trash talk sells their fights more than their actually, like, their actual fighting ability. Yeah. I don't think I've ever heard two guys cuss more in my entire life. I think they actually cuss more than they've said like any other like English words.
Oh yeah.
And they're just hardcore trash talkers. So I got him at 4 and 5. Colby Covington, number 3. You got to be a good trash talker if you get everybody to hate you. And that dude has literally gotten an entire continent to pretty much hate.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm part of that one. Like, I do not like that man. Oh my gosh, like someone beat him up already. He's funny.
Yeah.
I'll give him that.
Yeah, he's a great trash talker. I got to put him at number 3. I put Chael at 2, and I think he carved the way for us to be able to have our Conor McGregor, which is who I have at number 1. I just think the most insulting thing I've ever heard in my life is when Conor McGregor called Khabib's wife a towel. That's just so messed up on so many levels. And he said so many worse things too. And I gotta go Conor McGregor as the number 1 biggest trash talker of all time.
Sure. I mean, Conor McGregor, that man is just him, Colby, and Chael. They are brutal. They just do not give a flying anything. They just say what's on their mind, and they're like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, I'm like, okay, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you said that on national TV. Like, oh my gosh. But they're great. They build the sport. They're the reasons that we have this sport has like fans that aren't that like more. They help build the viewing for like more casually people who watch MMA casually, because I don't like casual, but yeah.
There we go. So that's a podcast.
There we go.
I hope you guys enjoyed it. Talked about a lot, talked about fight night, talked about retirees, talked about up and coming fights, and of course the big Salt Lake City, Utah UFC 278, August 20th, this Saturday. It's going to be a fun one. I'm super excited for it. And let us know in the comments what you guys think about the top 5s. We'll keep bringing them. We'll do different top 5s at the end of every podcast. I think it's fun.
Yeah.
Tori, any last words from you?
No, I'm other than I'm excited for fights this weekend. Won't be placing bets. Will in a year when I am 18, but wish I could, because I definitely would. But very excited. It's gonna be. I think it's gonna be awesome. I mean, I'm excited to see the greats fight. So it's gonna be great.
Yeah, I agree. There's going to be a lot of good fights. I'm really looking forward to it. But that is going to be it for the first ever episode of Not Your Everyday MMA. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, like, comment, subscribe, tell your grandma, tell your cousin, make your dog a YouTube channel to subscribe. Really appreciate it. And that's it. My name's Alex Henry. I've been with
Tori Habrel. Thank you guys so much.
We're signing off.